back to the Keep Your Torch Lit podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Sam.
I'm Jack.
And
sorry.
we are the bigwigs.
Sorry, I just wanted to talk first because I kind of am the epitome of white male privilege, so I just felt like I should have gotten my voice out there. So, sorry about that, guys.
Epitome of white male privilege. Is the word white in the title? Is it white male privilege or just male
That
privilege?
was good, Jack.
Is it just male privilege? I don't know. I think it's just male privilege. Yeah. Sorry, I just added the white in there.
I mean,
I
you
just
know,
felt like
might as well toss the white in there. You know,
It still works.
it still works. It's even more accurate.
Yeah.
Oh man, and that was just such a great exchange between Aliza and Brady. Kind of like these two, like in my opinion, at this point in the game, the two biggest threats, like slash like best players left at this point. Like, and seeing them basically just like, I don't know. Brady talk about how big of a threat he is, and Aliza talk about how overrated he is just so funny.
I feel like they're definitely the two heads of their two sides. Like, you know, she's kind of the head. Aliza's kind of the head of the Sabu Sabus plus Will, and then Brady is very much kind of like the head of Tafiti plus Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the head honchos.
The big wigs, you could say.
I think it's so great that the narrative of the season really has been like Tafiti versus Sabu Sabu since the very beginning. And like Brady and Aliza kind of have seemed like figureheads for both of their sides since the beginning too. Like they both were the ones that found the idol. Like they both have kind of had this like hero kind of edit. So like I love that it kind of like culminated in this like really dramatic tribal where like Brady had his immunity stolen away from him. They put votes on Brady, and then the idols played for Brady, and Aliza went. Like, you know, I felt like it definitely like culminated well, kind of in this like, I don't know, power struggle between Brady and Aliza.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Aaron was kind of like the one in the middle of all of this again, and that she, you know, ended up going fully with Brady after playing both sides. I think that was probably like the most said phrase this entire episode. Like, oh, playing both sides. Is she playing both sides? I think she's playing both sides, you know.
Oh yeah, Aaron played it very, very well. Like, this is definitely like the most power Aaron has been in for the entire game, and I feel like the way she used her idol, basically, it was basically genius in that she saved Brady, who is her number one ally. You know, we can debate whether or not, like, some people are like, oh, well, Brady's the biggest threat. Why didn't you let him get voted off? It's like, well, Aaron solidified herself in a 4-person alliance within 7 and was able to, like, use her idol for a big move versus, like being the 5th person.
I feel like there have been a lot of good idol plays this season.
Yeah, I think probably more successful idol plays than in 1 and 2 combined.
Yeah, 1 and 2 had a lot of like idol misplays.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this was a big one. Aliza's where Sarah went home was a big one. Aliza, what else was there? Ben, I guess he kind of needed to play his idol. Brady kind of wasted his idol, but you know, it's a good track record, 3 for 4. But I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about idols and all that jazz. Let's kind of start at the beginning. So we get into this episode, and both of the Emilys are gone.
Sad. We started with 3, and now we're down to 0.
Wow.
Reminds me of that one video, or that like one like meme, I think it was made of Jack after Sarah A was voted off, and he was like, hey, you don't have to say Sarah A anymore.
But do you guys, do you know what?
Now you don't have to say Emily anymore.
True.
Who has the better average, the Sarahs or the Emilys?
Ooh.
I feel like it's close.
I think that
because there's been 3 Sarahs and 3 Emilys, right?
Oh, you're right. Shoot. So Sarah's have.
Although I think Emily's have it.
Yeah,
because Sarah was first boot.
Yeah, but you were 4, So like that kind of
Oh,
averages
that's
it
true.
out.
What did
I don't know.
Sarah minutes?
And what was
She
Menace?
got 14.
14.
So we have 3, so
Oh,
average of
yeah,
12.
yeah. I feel like it's probably Emily.
Average of 12, but the Emily's
Oh.
got 17 plus 10 plus 9. They're exactly the same.
Whoa.
Wait, no way.
Yeah, they both average to exactly
Seriously?
12th place. The Emily's and the Sarahs.
Damn.
No way.
That's hilarious.
funny.
All right, we need Sarah versus Emily's to
Sarah versus Emily's. Everyone's just gonna get 12th place.
yeah. Everybody
I guess
just
it's-
quit
Wow.
at 12th
I guess
place.
that seems like a decently like evenly matched. Like Sarah Z, Sarah Gallagher, and Sarah Minnis versus Emily Bachwick, Emily Paddock, and Emily Levy. Like, I feel like you have it's pretty evenly matched. Like both sides of people that like are pretty strategic. Like it seems, I think it'd be like decently balanced. That's funny though. Huh.
I'll take the Sarahs.
I would definitely take the Sarah, just given that like the averages average out to 12, but you're the only person that came close to winning out of all the Emilys and Sarahs. But
All right. You're just saying that because I'm here.
I mean, at the same time, like no one else came close to dominating a season out of all the Emilys and Sarahs.
Yeah.
Even though like
who knows? Paddock might have if it weren't for the Ben bomb.
That's true. Paddock was looking very good up until the Ben bomb. But anyways, so we've settled the Sarah versus Emily debate, the great debate of the century. For now, maybe we'll have another Emily or Sarah in the future. Who knows?
Are there any other? Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wait, who?
Yeah. I don't know. You have to watch and find out.
I feel like Will definitely slid into this like. Will basically just kind of replacing Emily B in this like Sabu Sabu alliance, which I feel like it's like one of the things I'll give credit to Will for is that he is always able to kind of like, I don't know, he's able to pivot and just kind of like come up with a new plan if he needs to. He's very flexible. You know, like Emily P was like his main person the whole game. Before that, it was Ben. And like he kind of was able to just like cut them loose when he needed to and just like find somebody else to kind of like be his closest ally. And I was kind of like, all right, well, goodbye to Emily P. Like now I'm with Savu Savu and I'm just gonna like kind of squeeze my way into their alliance. So I feel like the sides definitely make sense. It's funny that like this two sides are exactly what the two demerged tribes are. But because you know that's the way that like there were 2 4-1 votes on either side, and the one person was just like voted off. I don't know. I honestly still don't completely understand why Sabu Sabu was so sure that Aaron was with them. Like, I guess it makes sense, like given that like she was always with them in the past, but like she just voted off Emily B at the tribal council before this. Like I guess like I don't know. And Devin had like explicit knowledge that Aaron was definitely not with them and was lying to them about her idol. But I guess like I definitely think that Sabu Sabu, this is like, if you could say their first big mistake was like the demerge, I would say their second biggest mistake was like this vote and the amount of information they gave to Aaron.
Yeah.
I definitely want to give.
Still.
Go ahead.
Erin still really intrigues me as a player because her power dynamics just keep shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. One moment, I saw somebody like in the comments say this, but it's just like one moment she's like the underdog, like scraping by, and the next she's like a complete like overdog, goes with like some of the most powerful people in the game and just like goes right in there and just like fits in like a glove. Like I don't know how she is able to do that so easily.
It's really fun to watch.
I really think that the alliance she settled in is like the perfect alliance for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, like Brady, it just felt so natural that like she had kind of been like wrong before by like this Tormenta Savu Savu group. I guess not as much Savu Savus, but like obviously like she has some hard feelings with Will still. Whereas on the other side, she has Brady, who's never really done any wrong to her. Cassie, who like told her like, "Hey, grab this buff. Like I believe in you." And Dylan, who like we saw them have a conversation. They seem to be like getting along pretty well. And then like so it just seems like it makes so much sense why like she ends up going with that side. Like and I know I as much as I said earlier that it was a really bad move for like Will and Sabu Sabu to like trust Aaron, I definitely give a lot of credit to Aaron for like how well she was able to convince them she was on their side, given like they all knew she was in the middle, but they still thought she was definitely going to side with them, like enough to tell her the entire plan. So like I feel like Aaron definitely like she kind of like has been in a rough spot for a lot of the game, but she finally like had an opportunity to like make some moves, and I feel like she really like took full advantage of it.
Oh yeah, and she did a great job.
Yeah. Let's talk about the twist of this episode.
Yes. Oh yes, yes. I really like this one. This is one of my favorite ones.
Whose
of the whole
idea was
season.
it? Because I love the prisoner's dilemma theme in general.
This was me and Matthew Israel. Matthew Israel
has
came
to be
up with
Ross.
most. He came up
I
with most of
bet
the twists.
Matt was just like in econ class.
Yeah.
Learning about the prisoner's dilemma. And he's always trying to relate to Survivor. But it was a good one.
It was really great. I remember that. So the way that like I remember us talking about this twist, it was like the summer before, and he was like, "I really want to do like this like Prisoner's Dilemma thing at Final 8," and originally it was going to be like, I think just like randomly choosing pairs, and then I think that I contributed like a super small part of it. Like obviously the Prisoner's Dilemma was like the most entertaining part, and like the full part of it. I think that the part that was my idea was that we were gonna to have the players like pick who they wanted to be partners with. That way, it could kind of expose like who was working with who. And I feel like that part kind of worked out, and that like all the pairs seem to be people that like were already kind of pairs, like Will and Aliza, like Austin and Devin, and then it was like Aaron and Cassie, Dylan and Brady.
Yeah. Well, and like didn't Aaron pick Brady first?
Yeah, and Aaron like put Brady's name first. Yeah,
and
kind of like expose like that whole thing.
Yeah, I feel like that should have been a big warning sign for Sabu. I mean, it was. They were all like, I think Will had a confession about it, but I feel like after that, I don't know how you keep trusting her going forward for the rest of the episode, but I don't know.
Yeah, because Will put Aaron. He put Aaron first because he was like, they had their little partnership. Like, I'll promise not to write your name down. You promise not to write my name down. Like, I just feel like they really just so badly wanted to like believe Aaron was with them because they felt so guilty because of like the Ben bomb that I feel like they were just willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, and she really like, to her credit, like took advantage of like how trusting they were and used that to her advantage. But anyways, the twist. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about it? The whole game theory thing was so cool. Prisoner's Dilemma.
It's always tough. Like it's always tough because somebody always gets greedy, or you're scared that the other person will, and then you'll be like screwed.
Well, isn't that the point that you should always steal? Like, isn't that kind of like the
like you should, but then at the back of your mind, it's like you don't know if you can trust this person because like if you follow through and they don't, they benefit more. It's just like tough.
Yeah. So you got to do it. So you got to steal. At the end of the day, it's either like you don't steal and the other person steals. You just have to like assume the other person steals. It's like at least I get the chance of getting two things.
I feel like the thing at the same time though, like Aaron's argument for why they should both stay made so much sense. Where she was saying, "Look, I have an idol. If you two both have immunity, and they all vote for Cassie, all four of us are immune, and there's a zero, and then that and rocks, so none of them would go home guaranteed. Versus if one of them stole, then all of a sudden, like in a rock situation, one of them is vulnerable. So like as a four, it makes sense. It makes I think more sense to stay because your whole four is guaranteed immunity and rocks. So for that reason, it definitely makes way more sense, like for an alliance standpoint. The thing is, like Dylan just like actually wanted Brady out, so kind of messed it all up.
Yeah, also it could be bad for your reputation to do the stealing because then it's like this person's kind of snaky.
Yeah, but I don't know. You're safe for 2 rounds. What are they gonna do about
That's true.
it?
Like they might I feel like so much drama is gonna come up between that time that they're gonna
Yeah,
forget it anyways.
yeah. It's gonna be something new.
I definitely feel like even though it might put a target on your back, like if it was someone like Aliza or Brady, I feel like it'd be a bad move to steal. But for somebody like Dylan, who like he kind of needs that. Maybe he needs people to think he's sneaky because like right
Oh,
now
you're
people don't really think
right.
he's doing anything.
Yeah. Because there are people where at this point in the game, it's like I kind of have to make some moves that are flashy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah,
You
like
start writing
exactly.
a resume. Yeah.
Like you can't be under the radar the whole game.
Yeah. Well, like, remember we saw, I think it was like some FaceTime between all the Sabu Sabus in the episode, and like Aliza and like Austin and Devin were all like, if Dylan stole, like I'd respect his game so much, like blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I definitely feel like for Dylan, it was even if it eroded trust with his alliance, like Brady kind of needs him anyways, you know. So I feel like I think it was a smart move for Dylan to do.
Yeah, if it was someone like Will, though, it might have been bad.
Yeah, exactly. I
It's like,
think yeah.
yeah, it's all about the reputation going in.
I agree. Like
Perception.
Devin or
Yeah.
Cassie, like if they would have stole, it probably would have been like good for them. Because like
Yeah.
at this point, like Devin, Dylan, and Cassie seem to be the people that like are kind of like everyone in the game kind of thinks they did the least so far. So I feel like all of them kind of need some resume points.
Yeah.
Also, what do you guys think about that balloon pop? About that challenge?
Ugh, I wanted to like I literally just want to play that as a game. Like that just looks so fun.
It
All right.
does.
Next time we're all together, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to think of a way to make it into a drinking game.
Yeah.
It just like because I used to play the Mario Kart game where you have like the balloons,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and it reminds me of that.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. So you just tie like 3 balloons to yourself, and every time one gets popped, you
Yeah.
take a shot or something.
Oh, we could think of some good games with that.
Yeah.
The balloon stomp. I remember being like really afraid at the time that like people would hear balloons popping and like think that they were
Yeah. I
like
think it'll be
gunshots.
gunshots. Yeah.
Yikes. Honestly, yeah.
No, that actually happened like a year later at
Yeah. I
University of
remember
Michigan.
that.
I think that was when we were seniors, Jack. Like
Hmm.
that same on St. Patty's Day. I don't know
Yeah.
if you do you
It was
remember, did you
in.
hear about this, Sarah?
Yeah, I was with Mitch and Leia and Cooper at the time. We
You're
were
in
in
like Chicago.
Chicago.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
We were together when we got the notification.
Yeah. It was in like Mason Hall, right?
They're like outside Mason Hall, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was like basically like some girls that like had balloons that I don't know why they were popping balloons, but they were popping balloons on a diag at Michigan on St. Patrick's Day. And then like somebody thought that they were gunshots and it ended up like turning into this big thing where there's like everyone in the whole university thought there was an active shooter on campus. Like everything got shut down. Everyone
Yeah.
like went on lockdown for a few hours.
And there were like
Did they get
rumors
in trouble?
flying around.
I don't remember if they got
Because
in
like
trouble.
technically they weren't doing anything wrong.
I
I feel
remember
like
weren't there like texts going around of like, oh, the shooter's like headed towards the diag now.
yeah, we
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
would get
he's
like
like in a trench
notifications.
coat. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like, what? I thought it was just some random
Just-
dude walking around in a trench coat. And everybody's like,
It's a shooter. So I'm glad that didn't happen to us. That would have been
Yeah.
very bad.
bad
If-
press
if
for
it's-
Survivor Michigan.
That would have been very bad press for Survivor Michigan.
But any press is good press,
Yeah.
maybe.
The university would probably shut us down if that happened. It's like, I don't know if there'd be an end to the season.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. It would have been interesting. But so Brady and Dylan win. Surprise, surprise.
Whoa.
Brady's second
Wait, how'd
unity
they
in a
pick the
row.
pairs again?
So this was the thing that like was my idea, where basically everyone had a piece of paper, and then you were supposed to like write down the name of the person you wanted to be your partner. And then
Oh.
one by one, we made them reveal who they wrote down their paper. And if you and somebody else chose each other,
Yeah.
you were partners. And
like
then
that.
and then it kept going until like everybody had a partner. So like there were a lot of people in the first round who like didn't have a partner. Like they chose somebody and that person didn't choose them, which is a little bit of drama of
So
like,
sad.
oh, like I want to be a partner with this person, but they want to be somebody else. I feel like it hopefully gets people thinking too about like, hey, is that like indicative of my position within the game that like my closest person has somebody else as their closest person? You know, kind of get them thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Let's say it's final 8 of season 2, and
I
this
was just about
happens.
to ask the
Yeah.
same
yeah.
Who do
question,
you guys?
Jack.
Oh
Well, so do we know the challenge before we pick?
no, they didn't know the challenge.
Yeah, so we're keeping that rule because that changes.
I would say that
Um,
yeah, no challenge. I would probably they weren't
I would
allowed to
pick Maggie.
they weren't allowed to strategize. That's the thing.
I would just pick Maggie.
Yeah, I probably would have picked Jack. But I could see a world where Jack and Maggie are together and me and Sarah are together too.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have picked Mike. I
Yeah,
think I would have
no,
gone with Maggie
exactly.
because
I wouldn't have picked
Maggie can
Lucy.
be pretty. Yeah.
I feel like Mike and Mallory are partners. Lucy and Nick are partners. And then either like Sarah and Maggie, Sam and Jack, or like me and Sarah, Jack and Maggie. You would pick Maggie to like,
No, I feel like Maggie's good at challenges.
no, she is. I mean, yeah, she won that food challenge.
Like I just feel like me and her are a good duo.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
I feel like at that time we would have definitely been like concerned about like we want Maggie to feel like included. So we probably would have all chosen. We probably would have all wrote down Maggie's name. I could see that. That's the thing I like about this twist too, is that you're not allowed to strategize with people. So like you just
Right.
had to write it down and then just hope that you're right, basically. But anyways, Dylan and Brady chose each other, I think, because they wanted to like they both thought each other were like the best physical person. And they wanted like to have a high chance of winning, which obviously ended
Yeah.
up working out well for them. Yeah, Dylan definitely seems to be like pretty aware of like Brady's game. Like he has this like pretty big confessional where he's talking about how like Brady is kind of just like has all these social connections and how Dylan's tired of Brady's connections and Brady kind of like watching everything that's happening and how like Brady had this whole thing where he told Will he was going to steal, but then he told Dylan like don't worry, I'm actually going to stay. I just want to like make Will paranoid.
Yeah.
Like it seems like Brady's maybe doing a little bit too much there, and it definitely like sketches Dylan out a little bit. Dylan seems to be pretty easily sketched out. Like he thinks that everybody's sketchy.
I feel like that's the good way to be in this game sometimes. I mean, Chloe also thought everyone was sketchy.
It's true. Will thought that everybody was sketchy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Dylan had the case of Will syndrome. Who knows?
I mean, yeah. That thing is contagious.
There's definitely like a healthy amount of paranoia to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because, like, you don't want to be too content. But
Yeah.
also, there is, like, a threshold. Like, there's a sweet spot for sure.
Yeah, like if you're
Because
too
being too
paranoid,
paranoid is not good either.
because then people just like think you're a wild card and they like don't want to tell you anything.
Yeah, it's like how having a little bit of nerves before a performance or something is pretty good, but you don't want it to, like, consume you.
Yeah. And I think also like if you can have all those paranoid thoughts, but like keep them to yourself or like in your confessional, but like if you're letting other people know how paranoid you are, then it'll just make them more paranoid.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like that's how I'd always use my producer chat is just like just giving all my paranoid like rants, but then like after I would sort out my thoughts, it would just be like, okay, never mind. Like all that stuff was just paranoia. Like now that I have it typed out into my producer chat, I can see that it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Well, I remember for me, like, since the producers weren't, like, supposed to respond or really give you any hints, like, I would get even more paranoid that they weren't responding to me.
yeah, yeah,
But I just
yeah.
have
Or
to
they would like
remind myself that they're not supposed to.
or like you try to read into like they like this message but not that message. Like why do they like this one? Oh man. Um. Oh, also like I want to talk about that Final Four that like at Pizza House. Like I feel like we've referenced that Pizza House thing a lot, where like Aaron went to Pizza House and paid for dinner for Will and
Hmm.
Devin and Aliza. So they offered Aaron a Final Four, basically to like replace Austin. So like I guess Aaron is basically guaranteed Final Four no matter which side she chooses then.
Yeah. Wait. So on one side it's who, and the other side is who?
So she could go Final Four with Brady, Dylan, and Cassie, or she could go with Will, Aliza, and Devin. Because they are basically telling her, like, if you go on our side, Austin is number 5, you're number 4.
Yeah, but I guess like she doesn't know they're telling the truth.
Yeah, I know exactly. Like, you're basically putting your game into Will's hands again and trusting him.
Exactly.
Versus on the other side, like, you have a really good connection with, like, Brady already and with Dylan and Cassie. Yeah, so I feel like it's pretty obvious what the better choice is for Aaron. She definitely chose that. Like, because at the same time, too, like, Aliza was very clearly like Will's number 1, Devin's number 1, and Austin's number 1. Like all of them are super tight with Aliza. Like
Yeah, it just seems to me like even if I put myself in that situation, um, Cassie, Dylan, and who was the third one? Devin. They just seem less, or Brady,
Brady,
sorry.
yeah,
Cassie, Brady, and Dylan just seem less chaotic.
yeah. Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Except for like Dylan stealing, but up until now, he has not been
yeah,
chaotic at all.
exactly.
He's been like the most drama-free person. Also, Devin and Dylan, I really liked the way that they were kind of like they played this week as far as just like letting all the information come to them, and then they kind of came together and just like combined all of it and pretty much understood like everything that was going on. Like
Hmm.
I feel like their alliance is really starting to pay off like in this stage of the game of seeing like they're on two separate sides and they both trust each other enough to tell each other pretty much all the information, and it ended up like neither of them are interested in screwing the other person over. Like I feel like it's just working really well.
Yeah. And also, like to Aaron, I feel like Cassie kind of seems like a goat probably to her. And then like Dylan, I guess Brady's the big threat in that bunch.
But
Whereas on the
yeah,
other side, I don't know.
even
I'm
then
just thinking
though,
of what she
yeah.
would think at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Aaron at the time, and this stuff was included in this week's footage, just wasn't included in the episode because there wasn't enough time. But Aaron basically was like, "Yeah, people keep saying that like Brady's the biggest threat, but I honestly think that I would beat Brady in the final 2 or final 3." So like, Aaron seems to really think that she'll be able to beat Brady, and
Yeah, I mean, she has a strong case.
there's evidence, yeah, there's evidence to suggest that like Aliza seems to think that Brady's a little bit overrated. And like, I think Devin was talking this episode about how like Erin has a really good story, kind of like starting from the bottom and like finding her footing
Yeah.
and like going through all these really hard trials and like coming out stronger, having this big move at the final 8 and solidifying majority. I feel like there definitely is kind of building this narrative where if Erin did get to the end, she'd have a really strong case. So like, I don't fault her for like thinking that she can go the final 3 with Brady and win.
No, I mean, honestly, like she can't please everyone. She has to just pick a side at some point and go with it. And like either
Yeah,
way, it's GOAT, so she could fare well
yeah.
against anyone. So she
And
just
then
probably just
also,
picked who she liked better at the moment.
yeah, exactly. And also, like, she still has this, like, alliance with Will where they're promising not to vote for each other. So not only is she in the majority 4-person alliance, she also has, like, a good relationship with somebody on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like that, like, there's just everything points to this being a really good move for her. So,
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Should we talk a little
What?
bit about um Sabu Sabu and their like blackmail to Dylan?
What was that?
So basically, um, so the whole plan that Sabu Sabu and Will had was they're gonna all vote for Cassie, but if Dylan steals, they're going to vote for Brady. If Brady steals, they're going to vote for Dylan, and if both of them steal, they're going to vote for Brady. So basically, that they were telling Dylan, like, look, like your best move is to steal, because if you don't steal and Brady does, we're going to put votes on you. Versus like, if you steal, you're safe no matter what. Because if they're both, if he steals and Brady steals, neither of them are immune. They're voting for Brady. If he steals and Brady stays, they're going to put their votes on Brady. So they're telling Dylan basically that if you steal, it's the best move for you because you're safe, and it's the best move for them because they wanted Brady out. So like the way that Aliza was kind of explaining it was like it was mutually beneficial if Dylan stole, but the way that Dylan took it was basically like as a threat, like yeah,
Yeah.
either you steal or we're gonna vote for you kind of thing.
It's not always good to blackmail. Because, like, you can just
Yeah,
find there's just other people to turn to, you know?
yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
never a super good tactic, I feel like. It's just kind of insulting.
Also, another thing that was kind of funny, I thought was like Austin and his like pitch to Dylan. This Austin and Dylan meeting, I don't know why it just like cracked me up, just because they're just the
Honestly,
two most opposite people.
well, that's like the same when he met with Chloe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's just funny. Like the
Well,
dynamics are funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But um, what it was definitely one of the ways that it's definitely a tough moment for Austin, where Dylan asks him. So, like, who do you think you'd be good working with next week? Like, if I made a move with you this week, would you be willing to work with me next week? Kind of thing. Because, if Dylan decides to steal and Brady goes home, he'll be in the minority of three. And Austin's response to that was like, oh, I think that next week I'm gonna want to work with like Will and Aliza and Devin, basically. And Dylan's
I
like,
mean, he's honest
okay. He's honest. I think that it's again
to a fault
this
sometimes.
Sabu Sabu loyalty thing worked really really well for Austin in the first half of the game when Sabu Sabu was on the bottom. But as soon
Yeah,
as Sabu Sabu was like either on top or kind of like evenly matched with another side, it doesn't work as well.
that's open to other options, or so
Yeah,
it seems.
like at the Rocks Tribal, like I remember they kept saying over and over, they're like, okay, well you're telling us that like you want us to flip, but why should we flip when like you guys are all so close with each other? Like, and I
Right.
feel like it's the same thing as like this week, where I think it's so hard for Austin to like lie to people and be like, oh yeah, I'll definitely work with you and get rid of like whatever, Aliza, even if it's like he just wants everyone to know where his loyalties lie, which makes him a really good alliance member to have. But I feel like also makes it tough when you're in a situation where you need people to like work with you, or when you need people to flip to your side, it's tougher to do that.
Yeah.
This is one of the things with Austin's game where like I feel like he was really, really he was in a pretty good spot. I would say like right around the merge. He got a steal vote and they voted off Cassie, and he got in the majority.
Cassie.
Sorry, what did I say? Chloe. Oh my gosh, even I'm getting them mixed up. They voted out Chloe. I feel like his game has taken a little bit of a step back since like Sabu Sabu's kind of been the majority, and he's been less open to like kind of working beyond Sabu Sabu. Even
Yeah,
though,
maybe he's just like,
yeah, yeah, sorry.
because in the beginning of the game, a certain strategy worked, but he needs to
Yeah,
be able to like adapt and be flexible when things change.
and I think that Austin's definitely really straight up too with like he said multiple times like I am probably the most emotional person in the game. I think he's very straight up with the fact that he's playing this game like emotionally, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think that he'll be the first person to admit that it's not the best strategic thing to do, but it's just who he is. I don't think he can play it any other way.
Yeah, and I don't think he's someone who wants to like compromise who he is.
Exactly. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening in the future with that. But Austin's in the final seven. It's something that we definitely would not have been able to predict in the first week of the game,
Oh
where it seemed like he
no.
was going to go home. You know,
Yeah.
he's still drawing off the energy of his stuffed animal Wawa,
Wow,
getting that
wow.
getting that
What was a
energy.
Webkins, right?
Yes, it was a Webkins. Love Webkins.
Oh.
So right before tribal council, it seems like Will and Aliza are a little bit worried that Aaron could basically just play the idol on their target. That's where again I'm just like, if they have any doubt in their mind that Aaron's going to do that,
I know.
that's just I don't know why they don't either. I can understand maybe why they'd
Like, there's
be.
a reason you have
Yeah,
that doubt.
yeah. You really gotta like trust your gut, I think, when you have that doubt, because then you'll later on you're like, if you had the doubt but didn't act on it and then were voted off, that's just like the tough thing, you know.
It's the worst, right? Yeah.
That's what happened to me. It's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in that
Did
sense,
not
like,
happen to me, but
yeah, you definitely had a
I
different.
can feel it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like actually it is interesting how like,
Well, I know what it's like though. It's like when I'm taking a test
yeah.
and like I had a gut instinct to go with like answer B, but I changed it to like C,
Well, that's what you
but it
did.
was
Yeah, that's
B.
what you did in like that tiebreaker kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess I can relate to it somehow.
Yeah, where you're just like, you should have just listened to the gut because you crossed off your answer and changed it, right?
Exactly.
But your first one was right. Yeah, sometimes you gotta trust your first gut instinct. Elisa's first gut instinct was, I don't really trust that Aaron's with us. She tried to tell the other people, and then like they kind of didn't. They kind of pushed back. I think mostly it was Will, that really distrusted Aaron. And after the Ben bomb and everything that happened, I can understand how like they wouldn't really want to screw Aaron over again after all she's been through. But
But it's pretty funny how like Will, who's so paranoid all the time, is the
yeah,
one who
that
was like trusting
that is kind of
in this
funny that the
situation.
one time his paranoia is not controlling his decisions is when it's like he should have just
Right?
been more paranoid.
Like he's about to be so
Oh
paranoid
yeah,
again,
I'm
probably.
excited to see Will after being on the wrong side of the vote because we haven't got to see that yet. So I'll just see what his response is. But oh, Jack might come back. I love that confessional Will had right before tribal council where he was like talking about like when someone's about to get voted off, it's like they're a rat that's in a cage that's slowly filling with water, and they're clawing and trying to get their way out, and then he's just like kind of acting like this drowning rat, and it's really like this morbid like thing. It's just really funny to watch. It's just classic Will
Yeah.
once again. Yeah,
Drowning rat. Oh my God.
and that's the thing. Oh, I mean, we see kind of like Aaron and Aliza and Will and all of them. They're hanging out before tribal, and Aaron is definitely not with them. But Aliza's not acting like this drowning rat that Will is referencing because like she should be scrambling right now. They should be putting the votes on to like Aaron, or they should be lying to Aaron and telling him they're putting their votes somewhere else. I really think that was like the main thing they should have done differently. Even as I can understand why they didn't because of how like morally it was just hard for them to do to lie to Aaron again. But
Yeah.
strategically, that is what they probably should have done. If they have their four,
Yeah.
they need Aaron to throw her vote somewhere else because she said she wouldn't go to Rocks, and she clearly is not going to play her idol for herself. And they should have just kept the votes on Cassie. That's what I think they should have done. But
Hindsight's
yeah, yeah.
2020.
I really loved. I also loved. I want to note how dramatic Ian made that like rock reveal. I think he used the same music as he did for like the first rock reveal. But
Oh my gosh.
and yeah, like I remember all the players were super surprised by Dylan's decision. I think all the producers, we were all surprised too, because Dylan did not tell any of us he was going to do that.
Yeah, Dylan did not use his producer chat that often. It was pretty much just like scheduling
I want
confessionals
to
in
say that
there.
we asked him if he was going to steal, and he was very cryptic, like on purpose. He was like, "I don't know, you guys will see. It should be a fun one." Like,
Yeah, he likes playing
yeah,
with us.
yeah. I feel like yeah, exactly. Which was funny. Wait, I think. Oh, I have his producer chat. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Social media?
Social media. Oh, is the social media segment going to be reading Dylan's producer chat? Yes, social media,
Yes.
everybody. We are going to read Dylan's producer chat right before this tribal council. And he was very cryptic. So here's what he said. So I said something. I said, leaning towards stealing or playing it safe. Dylan said, based on what I've noticed and heard, for this circumstance, stealing is playing it safe. Haven't decided yet
Whoa.
though. And Bree says, wait, I'm not following. Can you please further clarify how stealing is playing it safe? And then he never said anything else more about stealing after that. So all he said was that stealing is playing it safe. And then he said he was asking us if he could give his necklace away. So as you can see, Dylan is definitely he's an enigma. He is an enigma for sure. We did not understand him at all throughout the
Mm-hmm.
season. Like, I mean, just like we would talk. I felt like we would talk in our like production chats. Be like, what is this guy gonna do? Like, I don't understand. He was so funny though. It was just funny how we just could not figure out his thought processes.
We could not
No,
figure
I don't
him
think
out.
anyone in this game really has yet either. So it'll definitely be a fun person to watch.
Also, did we ever talk about how Dylan was a Lucy
That's
recruit?
right. That's right. I don't know if we did.
Lucy recruited
Yeah.
Dylan.
Yeah, she did. She was like, "Oh my gosh, my friend Dylan," because she would always talk about like Survivor Michigan when she was playing season 2 to like her friends, and Dylan was someone who was
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, I'll do that." So she was like, "Yeah, you should apply for season 3." So I would love to
Mm-hmm.
see.
Probably at one of the scrap
Yes,
parties, you
yes.
know.
When she was bragging about how she found her idol and how she could survive on a desert island, you know.
And like how she beat a frat boy
Yes.
at beer pong. Dylan was like,
Dylan was like,
what?
is there? He's
Dylan
like,
was
I can
like, beer
definitely win
pong?
this thing. Yeah, let me get in there. I would love to see Dylan and Lucy together in the season. I feel like that'd be hilarious. They're just definitely two like really funny people on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, Aaron tells everybody stick to the plan, and they all stick to the plan, which is voting for Dylan. No, sorry, voting for Brady.
Wow. Sticking to the plan. That's a concept.
Yes, what a concept. And they should not have stuck to Aaron's plan. They should have kept their votes on Cassie, but they put their votes onto Brady. Aaron plays her idol, and sadly, we see Aliza
Damn.
go home. This is the second time in 2 seasons that we've seen a 4-4 split at the final 8 with an idol being played on the person.
That's
Yeah, with an idol
crazy.
being played on like the person who is seen as like this biggest threat, and then sending somebody else home from the other side.
Who is a big threat?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I love how we kind of have these fun parallels between season 2 and season 3. Um,
Whoa.
yeah. Poor Lisa.
Aaron had so
She
much
really did.
power that
Yeah.
episode.
She definitely got exactly what she wanted out of it. I mean, right before Tribal, she said she wanted Aliza gone. And she really did kind of cut off the head of the snake. Like, Aliza was the person binding Devin, Will, and Austin together. So I thought that was a strong
Yeah.
move. It's definitely a strong move from Dylan. I think that there was really good gameplay from Dylan, Aaron, and Devin this episode, which is not something we would have predicted in like episode 1. As like who will be the people making the big moves like late merge in the season, you know?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The season's not very
Not at all.
predictable.
I mean, in Final Seven, it looks like it's about anyone's game. We see Aliza exit. It's very sad seeing her go. She's been a fan favorite this whole time, and also definitely someone that really loves the game. So let's have Aliza come on as our guest and hear what she has to say. Thanks for joining, Aliza. Really awesome to hear from you.
Yeah,
What have
my
you been up to in
pleasure.
the last few years? How have you been?
I've been good. What have I been up to? I've been, let's see, since I played season 3 when I was a senior. So then I graduated that May. I was just like hopping around for a bit, but then I was in the Peace Corps in Ecuador, and that was amazing. But I was evacuated from that, obviously because of COVID. So now I just moved to DC, and that's kind of what I'm up to now.
Wow. Talk about Ecuador. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Sorry.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, Peace Corps was amazing. I was having a blast. I'm bummed that they pulled me out, but I'm hoping to go back at some point.
How long were you there for? Like, was it literally
I was only there for like 2.5 months. Like I had just finished training. Like I didn't really get the whole Peace Corps experience, but I'm still in their system, and they are hoping to send people back eventually. So I don't know. It's kind of on the back burners for now. Yeah.
So you basically like got trained. Then you're like, okay, now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, they gave us like a taste and then ripped it away.
Oh.
Wow. It's kind of just like Aliza was taken out before her time in some ways.
Ooh,
It feels a little bit familiar.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just blindsided all of a sudden. It's just, you're in such a great spot with all your Peace Corps training, and then, out of nowhere, the coronavirus just whips out this idol and plays it on the whole world.
Yeah.
And, just so surprising, so sad, devastating.
Yeah, devastating. I kind of think me being idled out of this season, I think it's because like the Survivor gods were like, you idled out somebody else earlier, and now we're gonna like flip it on you to have your karma. Like I think me getting idled out was my karma for idling out Sarah.
That's actually, I didn't even think about that, but like, yeah, that is kind of like,
yeah,
very,
you get what you give.
Yeah. Oh, and both of those tribals too were like pretty, like two of the probably most dramatic tribals, other than that Rocks tribal so far, have been like the one where Sarah went home, and then this one where all this stuff is happening. Like you had the stealing of the necklace, and then the idols getting played on Brady, and then the shocker, like Aliza votes come in. Like, what were your thoughts during all that? Like, did you suspect at all that Dylan was going to steal?
You're kind of cutting out. Hello?
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Say it again.
Oh, I was just saying, did you expect at all like that Dylan would steal?
So this is also, I guess, if you're talking about things that I want to address about my memories or whatever, this is one of the things that I want to address, is that I texted like Dylan about stealing and how I thought it was a good move for him, and I didn't mean it to sound like blackmail. I very much just was like, I think stealing's in your best interest, and also help out me. And so it was kind of like interesting and funny to see that like I even like once I saw that episode, I like went through like all my texts saved on my laptop, and I went back to that text and like was like, what I said that really bad, like so bad. So that was kind of interesting, but I thought it was a good move for Dylan to steal. I think like Dylan is like stepping up his game, which we love to see. So I think it was a good move.
Do you remember what you said to him exactly? Do you have the text?
Should I break it?
Is it gonna take you forever to find it?
It'll take me like 30 seconds.
Oh, you should pull it up. But let's see the full picture, the insider info of what Aliza sent to Dylan.
Insider info.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yes.
It's me and Dylan. Go to Dylan. This is so funny. Okay, so I guess I had talked to him on the phone earlier and said that like we were planning on voting for something. And so then I texted him and I said, hi, okay, I checked with people and I wanted to clarify what I said earlier. Straight up, our plan is to vote out Cassie if you and Brady are immune. If Brady steals, we vote out you. If you steal, we vote out Brady. And if you both steal, we vote out Brady. Obviously, that's just what I have heard, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but this is our plan, and I figured it would be good for you to know when making your decision. IDK, if that was rude to I don't know if that was rude of me to say, LOL, but I said something different on the phone based on earlier plans. So I wanted to tell you the new truth. Haha. Tell me, is it blackmail or is it not?
And then
it's
after that,
forward. I admit that it's definitely forward.
Yeah, it's definitely forward.
Yeah.
Is that the text that he responded with, like that really long paragraph of like?
Oh my gosh, I felt so bad after he said that. I was like, oh my gosh, am I a horrible person? And I sent back like a whole thing like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, we love you. Like, whatever. I can't remember what it was, but I don't know. But I guess it came across as Jerry pandering. I don't know. I played that clearly very wrong. So that's on me.
Sometimes it's just like communication can just be so hard. Like you might mean one thing, but you can't control how somebody else is going to perceive it.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah. And that goes to show that you should probably call instead of text.
But I guess at the same time, Dylan already had this like impression that you were extremely sneaky from like way earlier in the game.
But that's the thing also that like I thought was kind of like, that was another thing that frustrated me was like, I thought that people thought like, it seemed like people just thought I was sneaky because like I would text somebody and it would frustrate me when I would like text somebody and like I would always tell my alliance and it was always like fine for them to tell their alliance. But it painted me as super sneaky. And I was like, I thought this was how you play. Like, I don't understand. So, I don't know. But I guess, yeah, people's perception is everything.
And I really feel like people just kind of saw you as, like, the leader of Sabu Sabu after, like, you just, like, played out in front to some extent. Mm-hmm. You kind of always just had, like, that target of, like, people are just going to blame things on you.
Yeah,
because like especially they want to put on someone.
Especially after like the Sarah tribal, I feel like you really kind of stepped into. I don't know, like Devin is a very quiet guy. Like Austin, you know, he's definitely like out there and stuff. But like I don't know, he just doesn't have the same like controlling strategic mind or like vibe as you kind of gave off. I guess if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I realized that I was like a face. Like I didn't realize that people perceived me that way as like a face of Sabu Sabu. So that's interesting. Also, seeing and watch back how that played out.
Yeah, I wonder how different it would have been for you if with Crouch still in the game, because I feel like Crouch would definitely have like kind of taken on that kind of leader of Sabu Sabu like role, at least like in the perception of other people. So like, yeah, definitely, it might have been good for. Might have helped you like to hide behind him as a shield. You know?
I would say he's the epitome of meat shield.
He is the epitome.
Yeah. Epitome.
Yeah, I mean he just has so much white male privilege and just, But even
like his personality, I mean, like he's like plays the meat shield card very well, I feel like for other people.
Yeah, I'm curious, like did you see Andrew in your long-term plans? Like, kind of, if he had not drawn that rock, like, I'm curious kind of about you and Andrew's relationship. Because it seemed like he would talk about you guys being close at the time.
Yeah, we were close at the time. And I guess it's kind of a hard question because, like, he was voted out and I didn't kind of think about him afterwards. But, like, I'm sure, like, had he made it through, like, definitely. Because I think he was, like I was closer to him than I was with Devin, and like I would call Andrew sometimes, and I feel like we were close. I would say Andrew has more like he's great, but he definitely has more like chaotic energy than some of the other members of Sabu Sabu. So like maybe he like I felt like I was pretty confident at the time, and this is clearly wrong about Dylan, but I mean about Devin, sorry. But like I thought that I knew what was going on with most of my allied members, and I don't think I would have been able to feel that way about Andrew. But I was wrong about Devin, obviously, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But you would have like... No, go ahead.
You go, Jack.
I feel like with Devin, at least, or like you would have known that you couldn't have trusted Crouch, but like Devin, you kind of like...
Yeah.
We're too trusting of him, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That alliance between Devin and Dylan totally shocked me. That was so good. They played that very well.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, you mentioned that thing shocked you. Like, what other things, as you were watching, were like came as like the biggest surprise to you?
Biggest surprise, honestly, I feel like Emily P. Like, I don't think I realized how like freaking good she was. I don't think I realized that, but she was really, really good. like I think obviously like she had a big downfall, but like earlier in the game, the way she like could get information out of people or would position herself like perfectly between people, I was really impressed with her.
Also, like you were talking a little bit about like your relationship with Andrew. I'm kind of curious about like it seems like you had a lot of relationships with like Sabu Sabu and like Will. Like where do you rank like all those people? Like at the time you were voted off, or even just like for most of the game, who were like your
Mm-hmm.
closest allies? Because it seems like I never could tell if you were closer with Will or with Emily B. Like who was your true number one? You know?
Yeah. It's honestly such a hard question because, like, if I had to pick who I wanted to go to the end with, I would have wanted to go to the end with Sabu Sabu, like, period. Just because I think that would have been a really great way to start the game and end the game. Also, like part of me thought, like, it would be harder to like, win against Will versus winning against maybe some people on Sabu Sabu. But, like, but it's kind of complicated because with Emily B, like, I feel like she was definitely, like, my day one girl. Like, I felt like she was somebody who I was very close to the whole time. But then on the other hand, like with Austin, he was someone that I just like knew would never like betray me. Like there was nobody in the game who I really thought like 100% were good except for Austin. Like I just like I never thought Austin would betray me.
Yeah,
What about
makes
that?
sense.
What about the
Yeah, I don't think he
like
would.
last episode when he like was kind of the one that might have flipped?
That's
I thought
the
that
thing
was
is he
so
might have
funny.
that was really funny, and you can see me like snap over it kind of. But that's the thing is he had called me about that also a couple times during the week, so he might have betrayed Devin, but I genuinely don't think he betrayed me. But I don't know, maybe he'll be on this podcast and he can tell you. But we were pretty tight. And then the difference is with Sabu Sabu, a lot of like the like day-to-day strategy, like we would meet a couple times a week, but a lot of it was through text. And with Will, it would be like he would text me 24/7 and we would talk on the phone every day for like hours and such. And so with him, it was like we were just like really like I felt like we were really good friends, and I did have like a good degree of trust in him. But with him, it's like he also had other allies. So at times, like I felt like I couldn't trust him as much as I trusted like Sabu Sabu, who I trusted a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like it kind of like I was kind of all over the place. Like I think just each relationship was so different that like I would have to like I don't know. Like I'd maybe talk to Will the most, but I feel like my bonds with Sabu Sabu were the tightest. I don't know.
Dang. I have a question. So out of like the outwit, outplay, outlast, which one do you think you did the best at? Like what was your strong suit?
Well, not outlast. Duh. Outplay, outwit. I don't know. Like what's the difference between outwit and outplay? Not to get like
I think isn't outplay more like challenges and stuff, and outwit is more strategy?
Then I'm gonna go with
I feel like that's how
outwit
Jeff
because,
tries to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I obviously didn't outlast. I feel like I was fine in challenges, but I was like I never won one, obviously. So I would guess I would go with outwit because A, it's the last one left, and B, because I feel like I was fine with strategy. I feel like that was the part of the game that I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
So,
actually, where would social fit? Because I feel like you were a really social player.
I feel like that would go into outwit. I agree with what like Dylan said in his confessional about like when you talked to like people, like it was really important to also like talk to them about their lives and ask them questions. Like I feel like A, it's nice to be friends with people you're spending so much time with, but B, I feel like that's like a good social strategy.
Yeah.
He like explained that really well, I think, in his confessional.
He did.
Yeah, I definitely felt like you were someone that was sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say Mallory was also really good at that.
Well, no, I was gonna say too that like I feel like Aliza, like you're really like one of the kind of like charismatic players that like just like people were just like, oh, I love Aliza, which was like something that's really great. I think in the early parts of the game, it gets like a lot of people on your side, and then like when you get to the late stages of the game, that's when all of a sudden like it becomes more of like a crutch, and then you get that big target. Like I feel like it kind of happened to Jack in the same way, like. You know, like I feel like people that have like really strong social games, like the first half of the game, like can have like it can become like a really hard thing to kind of like. Now all of a sudden, like how do you get rid of that target like in the second half of the game that you have? You know.
Yeah. That was something that I feel like watching Survivor, I never really like understood when people talked about like social threats. I was like, why would you vote for a winner based on like who just like was socially friends with people? But now I guess like after playing, I can understand kind of more like you're more inclined to vote for somebody that you know better and like because you see more of, like, I don't know, I get it kind of now how like the social game kind of plays to Survivor more.
Yeah. That makes sense. Hello?
Hi.
Oh, okay.
Just got
Sorry, my
silent.
internet's like really bad, so sometimes I don't know if I like dropped.
You're fine.
Okay, I don't know if you already asked this, but like if you were to play again, would you do anything differently? Like, yeah, anything you regretted from this game?
I feel like the thing about Survivor is like it's, I don't know, how would I play differently? I'm not sure. Like I think it's so hard to have regrets because I mean obviously you can have like I have regrets that I got voted out and such, but it's hard to like regret certain moves because I do feel like based on every situation I was put in, I reacted like the best way that I could at the time. You know, like with hindsight, I can definitely see where like certain things went wrong, but I think like I could never have seen that in the moment. So
Yeah,
I feel like I don't have regrets in that sense because I feel like based on this like the situations I was put in, like I feel like I did the best I could. I don't know, in terms of what I could do differently, like what do you think I should do differently? I don't know.
no, I think you played a really
I feel
good
like I'm sure
game.
there's a lot.
Yeah.
Like you found an idol early on, you played it well.
Day one.
Yeah.
That was a good moment.
I think you made good connections. Like you didn't just stick with your OG, like you branched out. So you had like backup plans, which I thought was really good. Yeah, honestly, sometimes Survivor, you just need a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
And there's not much more you can do.
I feel like maybe one thing I could have done was like not have like I think I kind of got a target on my back from Rocks week and then especially the next week with my idols and such. But it's like I feel like I can't. They're like that was like kind of situational. I feel like there was nothing I could do to have gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like I didn't have to like do the whole double idol, fake idol situation kind of thing. But I feel like even now, looking back on it, I can enjoy it. Like even if I didn't put a target on my back, like I feel I can look back on it and be kind of proud of it. So it's fine.
That was just such a great TV moment. Like, I don't know. I guess like you could have just like played an idol for yourself and let Devin go home, but that's like losing a guaranteed number. You know, like.
Definitely. I think that like my issue also was like I tried to play most of the game kind of like thinking things through logically and rationally. And I think at that specific vote, like we had just lost Andrew. It was so clear that Sabu Sabu was going to be destroyed. Like I just got swapped onto like the worst possible team ever based on like the fact that Tafiti didn't flip the past week, like, you know, for Rocks. And I was just like, no, like I can't lose anymore. Like I refuse to like lose my idol and lose Devin. And so like I think that's why I think it was just like an emotional decision too. Like I just like wanted to have one win.
Yeah.
Wait, so how did you I remember you said you accidentally ended up telling Ben the idols were fake. Like what was the whole deal with that? Like what happened with that whole thing?
Yeah, totally stupidity. Like when I look back on that night, I honestly cringe a little at how much could have gone wrong. Which is weird because going into it, I was so optimistic, but looking back on it, I'm like, why were you so freaking dumb? But I think the reason why we told him is because, like, he came back and talked, and he came to us and he said, I have an idol and I'm playing it, so yours better be real. And I think we just, like, freaked hearing that, like, that he had an idol and that, like, because, like, kind of, we obviously wanted Ben to flip and work with us. And then, like, how do I explain this? Hold on. Let's see. We wanted Ben to flip and work with us, I guess, and then like put all the votes on either Sarah and Dylan, and that would give us the majority. But like if that didn't happen, at least enough votes would be on Ben that Ben would go home. And then like there's also the fact that like we didn't have 2 real idols. We only had 1 real idol, and I don't even know honestly why we told him, like maybe in hopes that he would play it for us. Like I think it was just like the heat of the moment was like so stressful and chaotic that like we just weren't like thinking as straight as we should have been. I was definitely stupid. Like I admit that it was very stupid.
Then you almost played the idol for Devin. I was terrified. Like I remember you're just like, I'm playing it for Devin. Oh wait.
Yeah, that was a scary moment. Honestly, I'm not sure if I would have played it. I think at that point I was pretty sure it was going to be me, and saying Devin was just kind of to read the room.
Yes, that's smart. Yeah. So how did it feel like you walking out of that tribal? You and Devin are like both still alive. Like what was that feeling like?
That was honestly, that whole week, only because it was successful, obviously, but that I think is my favorite, like, Survivor. Like, when I think back on
Oh no. Oh my God.
Poor
What
Jack.
is happening?
Sorry, go ahead.
But when I think back on my Survivor experience, I think that was my favorite moment. And you can even like see me in that tribal, like I'm putting my arms around Ben, who just voted for me, and I'm like so excited. But then I think walking out of it, we were just like, how the heck are we going to survive the next vote? Like we're totally screwed. And like Devin and I went back to my house, and then Emily came over, and we like recorded like a 2-hour confessional of us just like screaming and jumping and falling on the ground and like having like just like crazy moments and stuff. And
Yeah.
I feel like it was fun. I don't know. That's when Survivor's fun, you know?
Emily mentioned like that moment too is like one of her favorite things. Like she specifically mentioned like you and Devin coming back, like you all meeting in someone's dorm or something, and that's how excited everybody was.
Yeah, that was a great moment. I'm glad. That's funny that she mentioned that too. I like that.
Also, I was wondering, so some people in the YouTube comments, like in this latest episode, were mentioning why didn't you guys put your votes on Aaron? And like thought of that as like a potential like way you guys could have got out of this tribal. Like, was that ever considered as like an option?
So I'll tell you kind of what was considered, at least what I considered, is because I didn't feel totally great about like Aaron this week. Like I thought there was like when I went to tribal council, I was like, there's 50-50 chance this goes my way and 50 like and the other 50 it goes the other way. But I think like and I floated to my alliance, like what if we like if Dylan steals, what if we keep the vote on Cassie, like in case Aaron's not with us? And everyone was like, Aaron's with us. But I think like and I kind of let it go too, because I think the big reason was like every week prior to that we had doubted Erin, and every week prior to that she had been with us, and especially after like the Ben bomb, like it's not shown kind of in this episode, but like the ramifications of that and kind of like how people felt about that was still ongoing. So the idea of like even lying to Erin, like I felt really bad about. Like I feel like had it been for $1 million, like yeah, I would have kept the vote on Cassie. And I would have like pushed that with my alliance. But I think I just like felt too bad to do that to her, to like lie to her. And clearly like that's a hindsight thing that I clearly made a mistake about. Like I feel like she wasn't with us and we should have realized that. But I think like in the moment I just felt too bad lying to her.
Yeah. She paid for dinner.
Yeah. and she I think
patty cake.
She came to my house and we played like a long game of Monopoly.
Aww.
And, like, played patty cake and stuff too. So yeah, she definitely like played like that her position well.
Did she cook you any burgers?
She didn't cook me burgers. Maybe I should be glad. I'm just kidding. I'm sure she's a great cook.
So like,
everybody has off nights. It's okay.
Everybody has off nights. Yeah, she's probably better than me, so I can't judge.
So you've watched like all these really intense moments, like the rock draw and the Ben bomb. Like, what's it been like to like rewatch all these things 2 years later and like see everybody's perspective and like see all the comments? Like, what's it all like?
It's been so fun. Like I've loved watching it back, and especially like the good thing about it being like 2 years later like this is that I feel like you can enjoy it as just like good television, as opposed to being like, oh, I wish they included this confession, or like they didn't show this. Like I feel like I can just kind of enjoy it, and it's been like mostly fun, I would say, to like read the comments and hear what people think. And I've listened to your podcast a couple of times and to this other fan made podcast a couple of times, so I've loved like I don't know, I just like loved hearing it. It's kind of like, especially I think during like early quarantine, I got very nostalgic. Like right when I got back from Peace Corps and I had nothing going on, I got very like nostalgic for like college, and I was thinking back on Survivor more. And so it's been like really fun to see it all come to life.
Aww.
Yeah.
So, go for it.
You go, Sarah.
No. I was about to ask another question. Go for it.
I was really just gonna be like, I feel like I say this like every podcast, but I do think it's cool that it's kind of like a time capsule in the past.
Yeah,
just, like,
definitely.
A snapshot of like this little season of college and of life that was just like a whole bunch of it was filmed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many people can say that they've had like hours of their life like on YouTube that they can watch like even like 10 years from now? Like, can you imagine coming back to this? Like, it's already kind of weird and nostalgic 2 years on. Like, I'm just imagining myself watching season 2 over and over again, like 20 years. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, showing it to my kids, like, if you want to know what it was like when I was in college, like, watch this. You can see what all the music choices were. You can see what the fashion was. You can
so
see
much
what
True.
like we looked like. I
so
don't
much
know.
better than Survivor 80 that's on now. Gosh, the good old days before Robo Jeff Probst.
And then they'll have Extinction
He'll be like
Island.
120 Jeff Probst, and he'll still have like the Botox, and he'll look
Yeah. Yeah, he'll still look exactly the
the
same.
same.
Yeah.
All right, my question. Okay, let me know if you've already like talked about this a little bit. But at this point in the game, when you've been voted out, disregarding everything that you know happens in the future, who do you think is playing the best game? Who's still in?
Okay, I genuinely think I thought that Will was playing the best game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's probably people, like, I don't know, people disagree with me on that. But I thought, like, one thing that I really value, I think, in a Survivor player is just, like, knowing what's going on. Like, I think if you are somebody who knew what was going on the whole game, then you're a great player. And I think Will did that really well. Like, I think he definitely, like, did, I mean, like, obviously he didn't know I was getting voted out, I guess. But, like, before that, he seemed like he did know what was going on. Like, he was on the right side of most votes. He was in control of a lot of stuff. He had relationships with a lot of people. And I think people maybe perceived him as, like, a bit chaotic. But that never really changed his position in the game. So, I don't know. I think he was playing a really good game.
Yeah.
I also, like, obviously had a front row seat to his game. And so I think that's probably why. But,
I mean,
yeah.
Will has voted correctly every tribal council except for when you were voted off up until now.
Yeah, this is the first one.
And I think that's, like, that's what I think, like, I think that's what carries the most weight for me, kind of.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what do you think about someone like Mallory, who voted correctly every time, but also didn't really know a lot of, like, kind of the really in-depth strategies that were going on?
Well, I mean, I think the strategy aspect is important too. Like, I guess I'm conflating kind of like having the strategy and using it to the point where you can, like, be on the right side of every vote and, like, be in control of those votes. Like, not always, like, not necessarily, like, being the one who just, like, votes because that's what your alliance is doing, but kind of being in charge of the vote too.
Yeah, like having, like, some sort of, like, control, like knowing what's going on, but also having some control of, like, the direction of the game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going on, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, do you have any more, like, thoughts from the that Rocks Tribal?
From Rocks Tribal?
Like, what was it like watching that? Was it painful reliving that whole thing and, like, seeing Andrew draw the rock? And
I don't think it was painful necessarily. I mean, I guess it was kind of painful. I can't even remember, honestly. I feel like it was I think the thing that I was most excited, or maybe, like, dreadful even about, was, like, after that Rocks Tribal, everybody's stories of the night were different. Like, everybody told how that night went differently. And I was just, like, genuinely curious to see if the way that I remembered it was the way that it actually happened. And so I remember, like, right before, like, when I was watching it back, I was with, like, my whole family, and I was like, I'm very nervous. And they're like, why are you nervous? I'm like, because I don't know how this is going to go. If I say something horrible, I don't know. But I think it was fine. I know that Cassie and Chloe have gotten a lot of hate for it, but I think they're both lovely people. So I don't know. Yeah. I think it's kind of like a good TV type of situation.
Definitely. I think that the comment section has calmed down in recent weeks as people kind of just, like, realize this is just, like, you know, is the show edited for people to be characters that isn't who they actually are? Like, obviously, I mean, you filmed a lot of stuff. You'd obviously can attest to the fact that, like, only a very small fraction of what you end up filming actually makes the episode, just because everyone submits hours per week, and you can only really put in a few minutes of each person.
Yeah. I also think, like, watching it back or just, like, reflecting on it, like, for, like, 2 years later or whatever, I even, like, see things differently. Like, when I think back on the fact that, like, Cassie started Survivor before, or Jesse too, I guess, started Survivor before they started college, that's, like, mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a lot more like, I mean, I didn't really know Jesse too well, and I feel like Cassie definitely like kind of got the butt end of the stick a couple of times, but I feel like I have so much respect for them now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that being your first like social interaction in college.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
They're
they were
traumatized.
pretty well adjusted for being like freshmen. That
Yep.
for
Pretty
both
mature.
doing. They were both being very
Cassie
busy.
Very mature.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did we ever talk about that?
I don't know.
I don't think so. The fact that they both had really busy lives. You think about it, like
They did.
Cassie was working a lot, and then Jesse was doing rowing and glee club and tennis. Like that's.
And neither of them ever apologized for it. Their busy lives. Call back first season.
Call back to Jess from season 1. For those who know, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
That's another thing. I never actually interacted with Jessie during the game, and so watching back her confessionals, they're so freaking funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. Who was like? I guess you kind of already touched on that, but like, what people did you enjoy watching? Did you really enjoy watching that you didn't like? That were like unexpected. Where like you're like, whoa, like that person's way funnier than I knew. Like,
yeah. Who do I? A lot of people. I feel like everyone's been really funny in their confessionals. I didn't realize like people were being funny. I would have tried to have been funnier. But, I think Dylan's are so funny. Like when he goes, like, didn't he have one the other day that was like, "This island life is so hard. Like I need fire."
Yeah.
Penguins are flying one. That's so funny. But I guess it's Dylan, so it's not a surprise. But like, Jesse's have been super. Like Jesse's little board thing. I know everyone loves her little board thing that has little notes on it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those have been super funny. I don't know. I've enjoyed like Will's are always like super chaotic, like because they're hysterical. Everyone did a good job.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Will like he has this look in his eyes for half of his confessionals where he just so great.
My favorite thing to watch back. This is legitimately what I was most excited. I was excited for 2 things, and one was to see everybody running around in onesies. I was so excited for that. And then randomly I was really excited to see my face when I was voted out. I just kind of wanted to see what my face looked like. Like if I was really angry or like, I don't know. And the onesies one definitely lived up to the hype.
Did your face
live up to the hype?
I wasn't making that much of a face. I was expecting myself to have been making more of a face, and I think I was just kind of like straight faced. I don't know. Like, I think I like when Erin played her idol, I kind of knew my fate, and so I think I'm just kind of like, dang, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's kind of how
next time I'll make more of a face.
That's kind of how I felt, honestly. Like the same exact way. Like we both went out 8th place.
Whoa!
We both went out to like an idol, and it was kind of like I went into that tribal not thinking that I was gonna go home, but as soon as the idol was played, I was like, I'm a goner. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like game over. And I feel like you had the same like.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
But I can say Cooper didn't actually light or snuff my torch. He held a lighter behind the torch and just lit the lighter and then unlit the lighter. So my torch was never actually lit. So maybe I'm secretly still in the game.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a sign.
Yeah. Foreshadowing.
Yeah. What is it called? Edge of Extinction. That's me.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoilers. Oops.
Well, come on, you're not supposed to talk about that. Come on. No one's gonna expect Richard to come back.
No. Richard, honestly, of everybody in the game, I think Richard left the biggest impact.
Yes.
But like people were talking about Richard all the way till like the last day.
Really?
Yeah. Like in the Ben's email even said like this like hashtag Richard. I can't remember. I was like about Richard.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, he did kind of like contribute to this war between Sabu Sabu and Tafiti that like lasted all the way up until now. I mean, this current tribal was like 3 Sabu Sabus plus Will versus 3 Tafitis plus Aaron. Like it's always been this war between Sabu Sabu and Tafiti with like Tormenta kind of like flip flopping back and forth. One last question we always like to ask is like, what did you get out of the whole experience? Like, what did you learn from it? What did you take away from it?
Yeah. Like, what did I learn from it? I would say, like, one of the most interesting things about Survivor and playing Survivor, especially in college, is like the fact that you're in this very like kill or be killed kind of world, but you're also kind of among your normal life and among people who've like become your friends. And like within this kind of like, I guess like kill or be killed type situation, it was really interesting, I feel like, to see how I reacted to that, like both like from a personal perspective and from like a strategic perspective, like how I interacted kind of in that environment. Because it's so like not a situation that you would normally be in. Like it's so not normal for like people to be like scheming behind your back. And so I thought it was just like super interesting to like learn how, I don't know, like I like worked my around that kind of, and like there's times where did it well and there's times when I didn't, I guess, but like it was just interesting, I feel like, to learn how I reacted to those situations. I feel like it brings about like a certain sense of self-awareness. I don't know. I told my sister the other day, or like last year really, but like I told her she should play like season whatever it was at the time. And she was like, why would I ever want to be in a situation where like people are scheming about me behind my back? Like that sounds like my worst nightmare. And I was like, well, I guess it kind of is, but it's also really fun. So I don't know.
Yeah, it helps you
I
like
don't know if that was a
really
coherent
grow.
answer, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you definitely learn a lot about yourself, like when you kind of had to be tested like that, you know?
Yeah. Like you're just put in a situation that you've never been in. So it's just kind of interesting to see how you react to new situations. So yeah, I guess, yeah. Is that growth? I guess that is kind of growth.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get to fulfill a lot of your Survivor bucket list when you played?
I did. I didn't win an immunity challenge. I had the immunity necklace, I guess. I honestly forgot about that until I watched that back. That was kind of funny that Emily gave that necklace to me. But
oh yeah,
hopefully I get to go on CBS Survivor one day and win an actual immunity of my own. But the Idol, that was like, that fulfilled a dream. There was like an earlier challenge that I beat, like, I don't know, like I won it for my tribe, and that was like such a great moment for me.
I remember that.
I never played like team competitive sports like that, and so like to be that person was like, wow, this is a great feeling. Maybe I should have played more when I was younger.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember you were in the confessional, you were just like, and the Survivor music's playing in the background, and I had like the victory music playing, and everyone's like enveloping you in this big sabu, like one of those kind of like,
that was a great Survivor moment.
And what did Crouch say? He's like, girls got the clutch factor.
Oh yeah, that was nice. I did love that. That was fun to watch back. That was also funny because I there's certain things that I forgot, like, but then watching it back that I remembered. Like I went up against Dylan at one point, and I forgot that I like literally held his arm during the challenge, and I was like, no, you just can't use this arm. And I like held it, like we were like practically holding hands for a bit.
Oh,
Wow.
All right. Well, so great to have you on here, Aliza. Awesome to, just get your insight and hear what you've been doing.
Yeah, it was great to hear your lovely voices and hear what you guys have been doing.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Aliza.
thanks for having me.
Gosh, I really hope we get to see you on some sort of Survivor again in the future. I know I personally would love it.
Yeah, I would love that, Jack. Do you think we'd be allies if it ever happened?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Depends how things shake out.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely speaking with you.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Stay safe.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So great to hear from Aliza. So sad to see her go. Gone before her time.
Oh, definitely.
I know. Definitely a lot of winner picks.
Yeah.
I think.
Everybody loved her. I mean, like, she had such a just like great energy in all of her confessionals. She was funny without like trying too hard to be funny. Like she said in her thing that like, oh, I wish I was funnier, but I feel like she was pretty funny.
She was
throughout
funny
the whole show.
And just very nice.
Yeah.
Even in her confessionals, which is hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt like you could always tell that like it didn't seem like Aliza was playing a character. Like that was just like Aliza. Like Aliza on the confessionals was Aliza.
Exactly. She's very well spoken too.
Yeah, very well spoken.
Yeah. She had a great mind for the game. And like I think it was just so hard for her to manage her threat level. I think that was just the big thing with her game.
And it was just hard because she was put into like these situations early on where she had to show her threat level.
Yeah.
So can't really fault her.
She really played well when she was like playing from the bottom, and I feel like she was on the bottom so long that by the time she got into a power position, it was like she didn't really have that much experience playing like that, you know?
Yeah.
And then that whole demerge situation really hurt her, took away some of her numbers. She probably trusted Will's word a little bit too much at the final 8 while trusting Aaron. And yeah, just tough. You know, I think that she was going to have a hard time making it to the end no matter what. But props to her for being in Alliance of 4 where all 3 of them wanted to take her to the end.
Yeah, they all loved her. Yeah.
She really just needed that one more person on her side, and I feel like she would have been pretty set.
Yeah, I mean, like in a world where like somebody on her side gets the idol or that Aaron has, you know, or Aaron had, like it could be very different.
Well, in a world without the demerge, Sabu Sabu's in a good spot. Even if she just has Emily B still in the game at this point, she would be really set. It's just having that 4-4 really hurt, and then like once there's that 4-4, I feel like Sabu Sabu was just like so close to each other. It was going to be pretty impossible to get anybody else to want to join their side.
Exactly.
Like we kind of talked about like Austin's whole thing where he talked with Brady, where he was like, I feel like I want to work with like Will, Devin, and Aliza next week. And Dylan's like, oh, all right. So I feel like at this point, Sabu Sabu just had such a reputation of being so close. And Aliza was kind of like the leader of Sabu Sabu that she was just always going to be a target. But yeah, in some ways, Jack, I think I said this earlier, her game definitely reminded me of like your game in some ways, of just like someone that like had a really strong pre-merge and had like a lot of good relationships and was really well liked by everybody. But as soon as like she got to this point in the post-merge, where she just had this really big threat level and wasn't really able to like kind of shake that.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to manage it.
Yeah, like she's not able to manage it. Yeah.
Guys, it all comes down to Mitch. Like it's all about managing.
It is all about managing. That's what Survivor is all about.
True. So shall we place Aliza on the 8th place rankings?
It's gonna be tough. We got one of our own.
Oh man.
Let's see.
So I think we have
Sam, Aliza, and Akshay.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's like a intense one. I'm gonna put. Honestly, I think like all 3 are very strong players. I would probably put Sam first, then Aliza, then Akshay. That's like my initial gut feeling. And you know, we got to go with our gut.
Gotta go with the gut. I definitely think that the me and Aliza one is one. I mean, you don't have to just like. I mean, I don't know. You don't have to just like say that I'm the number 1 just because I'm here. Because I definitely feel like it's up for debate. Aliza, I don't know. That's tough.
She's just such a good social and strategic player.
I would,
But so are you.
I feel like you guys were both in a position where if you came out on top of like the final 8 vote, you were in a really good position to get to the end.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, like she was with 3 people who like really wanted to take her to the end. And I feel like you guys both just kind of came up on the wrong side of that final 8. You know, idle, people flipping, et cetera, that like...
Yeah. It was a really similar way we both went out.
Yeah.
A part of me is thinking that like I don't know if I ever pulled off a move in season 2 that was as good as Lisa's moves.
I don't like the Kevin vote.
The Kevin vote, I was a part of that, but it wasn't like I pulled off by myself. Whereas Aliza with like her Sarah thing, like that was one of the best moves I've seen like so far in Survivor. Like at least like this whole season, I think it's one of the best ones. Like, but
yeah, but and also, well, that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier a little bit. Is that like it's almost like too good that it's a detriment to do that so early.
Like, I don't know.
I think Aliza also though, she had more people who were loyal to her. Where
Yeah.
I had like, I had people that were loyal to me to some extent, but I didn't have three people who all wanted me in the final three
Yeah.
with them. Aliza had Emily B who wanted her in the final three. She had Will, she had Devin, she had Austin. I had different people who I was aligned with. Like I was aligned with you guys, but I voted
Mm-hmm.
off Abby, who would have like been loyal to me. At least I
Mm-hmm.
never voted off someone who was directly loyal to her. Like
Yeah.
I think that was a mistake for me, was voting off
Do you
Abby.
think it's because like they were so at the bottom in the beginning that they were really bonded by that, whereas like
Mm-hmm.
we were at the top, I feel like, for
Yeah.
most of it, and we had a lot of options.
It's a very different game than what Aliza had to play. Like I wasn't backed into corners all the time like Aliza was.
Mm-hmm.
But like when she was backed into corners, she really proved herself. Whereas in season 2, I feel like I kind of was in a good position and didn't necessarily have to like pull off these crazy moves. Other than the Kevin one, which I want to give equal credit to like me, Sarah, Maggie, and Abby. I feel like we all played a part in that move, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We were a well-oiled machine that week.
We really were. We worked together really well. And also, I want to say at the merge, I think that I wasn't necessarily leading that alliance. Like, I feel like, if anything, like Sarah had the most power in that alliance, or Sarah, or both of you guys did. Whereas, like, I didn't really have as much connection with Cerulean as the two of you did. But comparing that to Innovatrium, I feel like Will and Aliza were kind of like the center of their alliance. Where, like, Will kind of had control over the Tormented people, and Aliza kind of had, like, the Savu Savu people. Or, like, I don't know. I'll have to say, I think Aliza, I would probably edge her out over me. But I don't know.
It's like
Maybe
really
I'm
close for me. Honestly, it's like a
yeah.
tie.
Yeah.
I don't want to cop out and say a tie.
I feel like Jack,
It's
you're
also
the
just like
tiebreaker.
so I guess maybe like imagine if Aliza played in Sam's spot in season 2 and Sam played in Aliza's spot. Because it was just a different like scenarios.
It's so different.
Like I think Aliza also would have blended with as well. We would have wanted her in our alliance.
Yeah.
And then you probably would have done pretty well from the bottom.
I just feel like based on like the fact that Aliza was able to make like these connections like so hard. Like you see like when she gets voted out, like Austin's like putting his buff out. Like people are like so pissed. Like I don't know. I just feel like by the time that you got to a similar point in season 2, you didn't have as strong of connections.
Yeah.
You know. So I might have to give it to Aliza here, Sam. I'm sorry.
No. I would agree. I mean, think about it this way too. Aliza was seen as the biggest threat to win at a lot of points in this game. I don't think I ever was seen as the biggest threat.
No, you were tied for being the biggest.
No, you were.
I guess I was. I don't know. But the narrative.
I don't know. You played very well.
It's all right. It's very close, but I'm okay with giving. I would probably agree with giving that edge to Aliza.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we can like debate it from a lot of different angles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that like the tiebreaker too is that Aliza found an idol. I never could find an idol.
True.
So I'll give her that.
All right. Well,
all right.
We have Aliza over Sam, and then third Akshay. Don't want to discount Akshay. Like, I think he just like in his season was not as much of a social player as you two.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely made a pretty bad move that hurt his game.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't see me and Aliza make bad moves until like the weeks we were voted off, which were more like questionable moves than bad moves. So yeah.
All right, guys.
Cool.
I'm like hungry.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for. Stay tuned next week, guys. We'll have some more great content coming your way.
Oh, yeah. Another awesome episode. Gosh, what a good season. It's been so fun talking to you guys through all this.
I know.
Talking through with all these people, all these smiling faces I haven't seen in a while.
We only have 3 episodes left. We're really getting to the nitty gritty here.
Crazy.
You sound like a parrot.
See you guys later.
Bye.